Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar from IAAP EU. We are just about to start, and I would like to first of all give the floor to my dear friend Lukáš, who will let you know that we have translation into the Czech language simultaneously today, and I cannot say that in Czech, unfortunately.
Děkuji všem, kteří jste se připojili s tím, že chcete využít češtiny, tak pokud teda chcete, tak klikněte na ikonu globusu a tam, když si zvolíte češtinu, tak budete mít tlumočení.
Thank you very much, Lukáš. Apart from the simultaneous Czech translation, we also have automatic captions via the Zoom function. And if you would like to ask questions, please use the Q&A function, and I will just let it go another minute or so with this while I remake Lukáš into interpretation. No, I'm not sure I can do this while I'm sharing. So just to make things easier, I think I will stop sharing for 1 second while I'll make sure that Lukáš gets into the interpretation booth again. Just a second, excuse me for that. So hopefully that is now all working. It's really hard to do more than one thing at once, but welcome everyone to this webinar. We have 264 people registered for this, but I know people know that we are usually recording these sessions, so usually the registration is a little higher than the number actually being here with us live. But again, we do have a presentation today and then a Q&A at the end, but please use the Q&A function. You can start whenever you like to ask questions, and we will take them in the end. And if you would like to have the Czech translation, please use the globe icon. Otherwise, you have the captions that are automatically provided via Zoom. This webinar is about the updated IAAP CPACC certification. Actually, the body of knowledge is what we are going to talk about today. And we have a packed agenda. First, a little bit of the housekeeping, which is what I'm trying to make sure I get through here. And I will say a couple of words on the updates on the certifications from IAAP, just so everyone understands how this process works. And then what you all came for, what is actually new in the CPACC body of knowledge. That is going to be covered by two of our volunteers. And then we have a little bit of discussion on how to prepare for the courses and prepare for the exam, sorry, and the possibility to have training courses to prepare. We have a short panel discussion with the volunteers and then plenty of room for Q&A at the end. So again, please use the Q&A function and we will be happy to respond to your questions afterwards. So my name is Susanna Loren. I'm the IAAP representative to the EU. And today I have three distinguished speakers with me as well. Peter Kemeny has been volunteering with the CPACC body of knowledge update with providing legal and standards and other EU policy parts. And Sara Kjellstrand has been doing quite a lot on the updates on disability challenges and solutions and also the cognitive parts. And then Malin Hammarberg is going to present a little bit on the training courses that the Funka Foundation is offering. So that's my fellow speakers today. Just a couple of words on the certification updates. So as I'm sure most of you know, the IAAP professional certifications are very thoroughly worked through and developed in a very professional way. So together with the Institute of Credentialing Excellence, we make sure that the professional certifications are internationally recognized. It's not something IAAP invents ourselves. There is a methodology for all the development, and thorough process for market research and job task analysis and the psychometrical measurement and all of that. And to support us with that, we also work together with professional testing. So they are actually leading the work on all the exam questions, the item writing and all of that. And then, of course, it's the subject matter experts of IAAP, members and volunteers that work with the actual content of the process, but we would never be able to have such good certifications if we weren't part of this these other organizations that support us with making sure that our certifications are up to date with what is happening in the all over the world. And by the way, among those 264 registered for today, we had people from 20 different countries, 18 member states, plus what we call EU plus family and friends. So we have people from Norway and the UK attending as well. So a good spread of people interested in this topic. So thank you for that. The updates of the certifications, both the body of knowledges and the exams, are done continuously. We get feedback from people who sit for the exam, so thank you for that. That's very important for us to hear what people think about the exams, and we learn from everyone that brings feedback to us. And of course, the world evolves. We have continuous evolution or development of standards, policies, regulations, technology, assistive technology. Everything is moving, so we have to keep up to date, of course, and that's why we have to do a thorough work with the updates. And we do start with updating the body of knowledge. So what do people need to know to sit for this exam? And when we have updated the body of knowledge, then goes another round of updates, which is where we review the exam questions. So do they still fit? Which ones do we have to rewrite? And where do we need to write new exam items for this? So there's a few processes that go slightly in parallel, but also after each other to make sure that the whole ecosystem of body of knowledge and exam questions are fitting together and updates in the same time. So the newly published CPACC body of knowledge update is what is needed to prepare for the May-June exam window. So there is always a little bit of time so that you can read up on the new body of knowledge. All of this is, of course, member-driven. IAAP is a not-for-profit and member-driven organization. We work very closely with our subject matter experts, and really we wouldn't be able to exist, and the certifications wouldn't exist if we didn't have the subject matter experts, the volunteers who support us and give with their time and their energy and their excellent experience put into this. This is really a community thing where we know that the certification is kind of mirroring what the industry wants and thinks is important. So when we pick the volunteers for, or select the volunteers to work with the updates, we look at both continuity and fresh eyes. So a couple of people who were in the last round is always good to have there to kind of bring that expertise and knowledge into the mix, but it's even more important to have young or people who are new to the certification topic, so that we get some fresh ideas and new perspectives and really can be questioned about everything we did the last time. So that mix is also very important in these groups. And then, of course, we look at regional representation. So not everyone is from the same part of the world. And because we have members from more than 100 countries, it's very easy for us to also get this global overview. And then, if possible, we try to get people who are also having different backgrounds and experiences and so on. So we have a holistic view on the whole thing. And I've been working very closely with the volunteers in several of these updates, and I must say it's a fantastic community feel. People are so nice to each other, and it's really the discussions are absolutely amazing. So I would highly recommend to apply to be a volunteer. But this quote is from one of the volunteers in the WAS update group, who said that he really thought he was surprised of how much he learned, and also the kind of the discussions really enlightening and something that many of the volunteers really appreciate. So that is something I also wanted to share, that the volunteers are not only doing a fantastic job, but also many of them very much appreciate the job. So with that little introduction, I would like to leave the floor to Peter, who will talk about the most sexy thing in the world, which is EU legislation.
Hi, I'm Peter Kamin. I'm a lawyer by trade originally, and of course, I think that legislation is very important. But it's not only important for lawyers. The legislation, the legal background, and the standardization background standards are a very important part of accessibility core competencies. And upgraded body of knowledge does a great job in presenting that in a way that's easier to understand, that's comprehensive for people who are not lawyers, who don't know the legal jargon. So, and it's an important part, of course, the certification as well. For making for reaching accessibility, it's important to know the technical details and what the standards require. But to understand the whole accessibility world, it's very important to have a good overview of the legal background. And as I said, after reworking the body of knowledge, it does an even better job doing that. The new body of knowledge provides a good and comprehensive overview of an international legal scene. It is presenting, for example, and it did present before, like the African Charter or the Inter-American Convention, but it's putting all the legal measures now a bit better into perspective. The legal background now explains a bit more clearly concepts like reasonable accommodation and how that relates to accessibility. So I'm of course not entering into all those details here, but it's a good, the body of knowledge provides a very good snapshot and overview of what is good to know about the legal background and what is necessary to understand the legal accessibility framework. When I was preparing for the CPACC exam, and I have a legal background and I have an EU legal background, I was a bit surprised that, because of course I live in the EU and I really like what the EU did with accessibility legislation in the last 2 decades. So I was a bit surprised that it's not that thoroughly presented. And that's also an improvement in the new body of knowledge. It treats the EU legislation as an integral part of the puzzle. It presents the EU treaties and it draws down to the member states legislation without entering into details, but provides a good view of how and why member states might have different legislations. Also, it mentions now some domain-specific EU laws like the European Electronic Communication Code or the Audiovisual Media Services Directive, but in a very concise manner. So it's just one paragraph on each, which gives a good view of what it is, and it's really not burdensome to learn it. Now, I would like to talk shortly about the two main directives, I would say, for accessibility, the Web Accessibility Directive and the European Accessibility Act. In Europe, the approach to accessibility is a bit different. It's more compliance or driven than so companies and public sector bodies follow the rules not because they are afraid of taken to court, but because it's very explicitly in the legislation. And the very interesting part of it, I think, is how the Europeans treat standards. So in the European legislation, standards are one way of providing accessibility. If you follow the standard, then you can claim that you are accessible. But if you find other ways, then you can do that as well. The important thing is that you provide accessibility and it keeps a flexible approach. So that's an addition that is very useful to know about. And another thing is that the EN standard now is a bit better presented in the body of knowledge, and I think it's a great thing because it has a bit of a new perspective. It adds to the WCAG standards that's used internationally, and the EN standard is being picked up also in other parts of the world than Europe. So, so to summarize it, the new body of knowledge is providing better international and more comprehensive overview. With those from Europe can be a bit more satisfied as well, because they can learn what is more directly interesting for them. So, and I would hand it over to Sarah to present the other two topics that were selected for today.
Thank you. So another chapter that was thoroughly reviewed is about disability categories, and especially the challenges and solutions related to different user needs. So one of the changes we did was to add more descriptions on challenges and solutions related to both the ICT environment and the physical environment for all user groups, for all disability categories. In the previous versions, there were some web enthusiasts who had put more descriptions on web accessibility for certain user groups and not for the others. Now it's been more streamlined so that it's clear that, of course, both the physical environment and the ICT environment impacts users, I would say, regardless of the disability category or regardless of a disability, but also that it really impacts all the different categories that are included in the body of knowledge. We also moved the assistive technology section that was previously a whole separate chapter and moved it closer to the users, so closer to the solutions that are described for different types of challenges that users can see. So this is also to reflect that both accessibility solutions that has to do with how you can make the environment a bit better for all users, and assistive technology solutions that provide more personal support, how they both tackle the types of challenges that are connected to different user needs. So it's not like assistive technology is a completely different world. It goes into the whole accessibility and user needs environment. We also made some changes to do a bit of updating and better detailing of different types of disability categories. For example, in the speech disability category, it was not really clear in the previous version that there are speech impairments and language impairments, and that there are disabilities affecting language in a broader way than just that has just to do with speech. So this has been a bit more detailed. And then the major changes we did was really on the cognitive side. So related to cognitive impairments and cognitive accessibility. And first of all, we introduced a section that really introduces the concept of cognition linked to the different mental functions such as memory, attention, reading, writing, and so forth. And this is just to do sort of an overview and a setting of what cognition and cognitive accessibility is about, that it's not only linked to separate impairments or different diagnoses, it's really something that affects mental functions and mental abilities with everyone. So it's good to bear that in mind before you actually go into the different types of categories. We also did some updating on the descriptions of some of the cognitive impairments. For example, since diagnosis of autism and ADHD are often done with children, a lot of the descriptions were really concentrating on behavior of very small children, and that does not certainly reflect the reality of the neurodiverse community at large. So we made a few adjustments to make it clear that there are challenges and solutions for adults as well as children. We also took the opportunity to update the body of knowledge with a bit of new research, especially some insights and interesting findings from a study published by the European Commission a couple of years ago on web inclusiveness for persons with cognitive impairments. And this is quite detailed research that also includes a lot of promising results for the future and new ideas for how to frame cognitive accessibility on the web, not just related to impairments, but really to user needs of everyone with regards to cognition. And finally, we made some changes to the assistive technology section here as well to make the specific assistive technologies listed more connected to mental functions, such as what kind of support can you get for memory functions or for reading, writing, communication, or to keep the attention. And this is to reflect the fact that many of the challenges and solutions when it comes to cognitive accessibility is common to persons with different types of impairments. So it doesn't really make sense to list assistive technologies as specific to a diagnosis or to a specific category, since the same type of solutions and assistive technologies can be used, often be used and be beneficial for a really wide range of groups. So this is just an overview of the main things we did.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much, and thank you, Peter, as well. And just to make sure that the responsibility is put where the responsibility should be. It was me and nobody else who made the mistake with the captions. I'm trying to do two things at once, and that is at least one thing more than I can handle. So really sorry about that, but the interpreters did everything perfect as usual. So just moving on, if you are interested in preparing for or to sit for the exam, which I think you are, as you are here today, there are at least 3 different ways to prepare for certification. So the body of knowledge is a free source that is open to everyone. So if you want to study on your own, you can do that and you don't have to pay anything to anyone just for the learning process. Then there is a cost attached to the exam itself, but just for the to learn all the items to sit for the exam, you can do that on your own if you have the experience and the mood to do that. We do provide good material for self-study. For IAAP members, we also provide a free course from Princeton University on preparing for CPACC. Right now, it hasn't been, because we just published the body of knowledge, they haven't updated the course yet, so there's still a little bit of in between here, but otherwise this course is very popular, and I think it's a very good reason to become an IAAP member if you are thinking of being certified. So that is included in the membership. And then there is, of course, a lot of different actors out there who provide training to prepare for certifications. That is a whole market of that. And one of those who provide training we will hear from now. So I'm happy to give the floor to Malin to describe about the training provided by the Funka Foundation.
Hi, so I work at a company called Funka Foundation, or in Swedish, we have the name Stiftelsen Funka. We are a not-for-profit independent organization, and our main goal is to empower persons with disabilities through user-centered research and innovation. To do this, we are active in projects, assignment on accessibility in the digital environment and communication, in transport and the built environment. We are active in standardization, scientific research, innovation, strategic studies, and user-driven initiatives, and of course, trainings. And our CPACC preparation course has a setup where, can I change this? Is it me who, okay, sorry. Sorry, our CPACC preparation course at Funka Foundation has a setup where it works as a foundation for certification or as a supplement to self-studies. It depends on your previous knowledge. We are happy to customize the training for larger groups. The trainings are 3 half-day sessions, where a half day is 3 hours long. We can have this course in person or online, and the course is available in both English and Swedish. And all our trainers on the course are either CPACC or CPWA certified. When you're CPWA certified, you have both the CPACC certification and the VAS certification. Our 3 half-day sessions are built on the updated CPACC book. And the first session is about disabilities, challenges, and assistive technologies. The second sessions, we will talk about accessibility and universal design. And on the third session, we will talk about standard laws and management strategies. We also have courses within RDS and VAS. And when the Book of Knowledge will be updated to VAS, so will our course in VAS. If you want to know more about our trainings, you can find out more about them on our webpage. As I said, in Swedish, we call Funka Foundation. So either you write funkafoundation.org and to come to our webpage, but it's also possible to write stiftelsenfunka.org and you get to our webpage. We are offering trainings not only in the certification courses, but also on accessibility, diversity, and inclusion, depending on what your company or your needs are.
Thank you very much, Malin. And so let's move on to our little panel discussion. So I would like to, maybe I'll stop sharing because we don't need this. So if I can ask the volunteers to reappear on the screen, we will have a short just discussion on the work. And we decided not to really dwell anything more in the actual update work, but rather a little bit more on the actual certification. So, and Malin, I meant for you also to be here because you are also certified. So why did you choose to sit for the CPACC exam? If we start with Sarah.
Well, at the time I was working for a web accessibility specialist organization, and there was a sense I got from different colleagues that web accessibility is really for people with technical knowledge or UX designers. And I have a social science background and a background in research and disability and inclusion research and projects. And for me, it was a way to really both validate the knowledge I had on accessibility, but also to gain more recognition as a professional actually working in the field. And to me, the CPACC exam is really important since it's about the broad picture about what are the user needs and how can you actually support users. This is where we want to get to. It's not about the way that you support the specific programming or whatever you do to support users. I mean, the end goal is the support. And this is why I think that especially the CPACC exam is super important.
Mm-hmm. And Malin, you came from the kind of the UX perspective on this. So why did you decide to?
I was working with accessibility, and it was many years ago now. It feels like, and it was kind of new. So a lot of people said they knew what accessibility was. So I had a hard time getting my voice heard about all the noise. So I wanted to certify that I was saying the correct things and that I had the knowledge, but also that I could prove that I had knowledge. So I decided to check out what the certification was. And I said this before, I fell in love with the content of CPACC. I think it's excellent content. And the book of knowledge is, it's a really good read. So I would recommend everyone to read it, even if you don't want to get certified. It's really good. And now with the updates, I think it's even better than before.
So you were in love before and now even better. That sounds crazy good content. So Peter, why did you choose to take the CPACC exam?
So I fell into the accessibility world right into legislation nearly 10 years ago. And that's a very interesting place to start from. And of course, you need to gather practical and theoretical knowledge. But although after 2 years, 3 years, I felt that I know a lot, but there's always a feeling of okay, something is missing. It's such a complex thing with many aspects. So when I had the opportunity, I started to study for the CPACC exam to first of all to see what is missing from my knowledge. And I got a very good overview of disabilities and assistive technologies. I really appreciated the content on the organizational, how to convince people in the organization and how to implement in an organization. So I was really happy to be able to have that complex view in one place and then to be certified knowing it.
And how did you study?
How did I study? I studied very intensively for a couple of days. So I started like a month before, and I was kind of lost. I looked all the links. It was very interesting, but I had to speed up to get to the end of it. So what I recommend is to really look around and use the resources, because that gives a very good background without pressure. It provides a broader picture, and then to get all through it. I studied for 3 weeks in a light manner, and then a couple of days without stopping.
I think all of those words meant you studied yourself. You didn't go to a training.
Oh, I did. I did study myself. Sorry, yes, I did study myself, but I also took a course, an online course, a 5-hour one, I think, like automated, so without persons presenting, and that's very helpful. Any training is very useful, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Malin, how did you study? Do you even remember?
Yeah, I studied in a very unsustainable way. I printed out like everything I wanted to read, and then I took it with me on the bus or the tram, and I read when I had the time on the parts that I thought I needed to learn more about. I think that's why I really loved studying for it, because I learned so much more and new stuff, and also I don't recommend doing it. Maybe that's unsustainable, but I think if you have the passion for accessibility, the CPACC is really filled with good and excellent content. So reading or going to trainings or watching webinars or whatever, I think it's a great foundation to have for all that is interesting in accessibility.
So the recommendation is falling in love with the content, but maybe not printing it. I think that's where we can agree.
Because it's a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine that it becomes a lot. And Sarah, how did you study?
I have to say that I didn't fall in love with the body of knowledge, the previous version, like Malin did. I found it a lot of sources. I couldn't really see what sources were essential and which were non-essential. So this provided a great motivation for volunteering to rewrite some of the parts, I have to say. So I started with a prep course just to hear, okay, so what do the experts really think are important to learn in all these words. And then I took it from there, seeing what do I actually know about already, and where do I need to read up a bit more and look at additional resources. And my I don't print stuff and read on the bus, so I do flashcards. This is my way of doing it, questions and answers. And I found a deck. I'm not sure it's very good, but I found something on the web, and then I did my own extra questions. It's an old habit, but it works.
I know there are also study groups that IWP members, and I'm sure also others, have to prepare kind of in groups. So that's also another way, I think, to do the studying. Of course, it's up to everyone. It could be very personal or individual what you prefer to do. So let's see if we have any question here. So several of the questions are around the Princeton course, if when that will be updated, and if it's updated before the test window. Unfortunately, I cannot give you a date for that, but I know that they're doing everything they can, and I do not think that it would have been published a new date if we didn't have that planned in a good way. But I'm sorry, I need to check with the certification team exactly if we have an exact date. I do not know, but I'm sure it will be updated before the exam window. Anything else would be strange. So we have one question here. Can I do the training more than once? That is first in the way it looks now, and then when it's updated. So the training, of course, I guess anyone can do any training as many times as you wish. I don't think there is a limitation for that, as far as I know. I don't know if anyone has another view on this. Yep, Peter.
I don't think there's a limitation of how many times to do a training. I don't know if it's useful to do with the old content and the new content, a different training. It's the same structure, the two bodies of knowledge. I would right away go with a training that reflects the new content.
And I get a message here from Sam Evans, who is in the audience now and who knows everything, who said that the estimated date is July 2024. So that means that I'm actually wrong. It will not be updated before the exam window. So then if you would like to sit for the exam for May, June, you would have to either take the course with Funka Foundation or study yourself or find another training provider that has already done the update. So sorry for that, my mistake. And we have I sent the link to the body of knowledge and other information about the CPACC exam. We have got some questions about where to find it and so on. And then, yes. And Sam Evans also confirms that you can request the new course if you would like to. So that is not a problem. So the other questions are, what about the yes. So how much details do we have to know? Do I have to know about the EU legislation to be able to pass the exams? I think that's a question for you, Peter.
Sorry, can you repeat?
How much details do I need to know about the European legislation to sit for the exam? It's kind of how long is it?
I don't know the exam questions, but I think that what is in the body of knowledge is a good overview, and I think that you should know, and it's not a lot. And I personally, I would click on the links and look around what's out there, and whatever sticks from that is useful and helps to learn the core part of it. But European legislation is still just one part of the whole legislative framework.
Yes, I think the so this shows how cleverly this methodology is set up. Even if you work with the body of knowledge, you actually do not know the exam questions. That's one of the good things here. Nobody can cheat, because even if you have written the body of knowledge, you do not know how the exam questions are written. That's very, very clever. But also makes it difficult for this panel to respond to the questions. But normally, you are not supposed to know the nitty-gritty details of every law. I mean, that would be crazy, because we try to cover this in a global perspective. And of course, very few people work at that granularity level in all regions in the whole world. So I think it's fair to say that it's an overview, and you need to understand more or less what's in scope and so on, who is covered by this, and more or less what it's about. Maybe something on the connection to the standard, but not exactly what is Article 5.2 or something. That's not the level of details that you need to know, because again, there's a lot of differences between the different laws around the world. And I also have got a message from Paul Bowman. Hi, Paul, who is working for the DQ University. And he says that he also doesn't have a date, but they will update before the exam window. So there is another opportunity there for one of the other training providers to train for the updated body of knowledge. And then we have a question about language. So in what languages will be the updated version of the body of knowledge? So right now it's in English, and we are working together with our volunteers in the to update as much as possible of the certifications and exams and everything to German and to Spanish. Those are the two languages where we do most of the translation work, but all of that is based on volunteer work. So I do not have any dates for that either. I don't know to what extent that is going to happen or exactly when, but before, I know that the DACH chapter, the Germany, Austria, and German-speaking part of Switzerland chapter, they have a very good process and many groups working with all sorts of things and also the translation. So I'm sure they will be working on this, but I'll have to refer to them for further details on when this will happen. And when it comes to the Spanish translation, that has been currently focusing on the WAS exam, and I know there is a pilot process going on for that exam in Spanish. But for the exam itself, it's unfortunately not feasible for us to provide body of knowledge and all the exam questions in each and every language. That would be preferable, of course, but those resources we don't have. What we do have is the possibility for anyone who is not a native speaker to get extra time, like an accommodation. So if you think that the language issue makes you read slower, or that it's harder for you to understand the context or the terminology and so on, you can apply to get extra time when you sit for the exam. And many European certification individuals who sit for the exam does that. So that's one thing. Well, and we got another language question similar. If I don't speak English and I understand written text in English, is that a problem during the exam? No, you don't need to speak English at all. So it's all written. So if you can read and write in or read in English, that is the best thing, because then you just click. There are multi alternatives, what do you call it, multi options. You don't need to write your own answers. So the answers are provided to you and you just have to pick the right one. So if you can understand written English, that is absolutely enough. You don't need to speak during the exam. Let's see if we have any other questions here. So you mentioned statistics and around disabilities. So how much do we need to know about the different diagnoses and what kind of disabilities are important for the legislation? So I don't really know if that's European legislation, but I think, Sarah, maybe you can say something about the connection between the user needs and the law. How much do the candidates need to know about that? or how much have we written in the body of knowledge?
User needs and the law. I mean, I didn't really, I'm not the lawyer, Peter is the lawyer, so don't know about legislation, but when it comes to statistics, there are figures, of course, so it's good to have an idea of the size of different groups, but then you need to know that these are not scientific figures. There is a difference between context and the definitions of different categories of disabilities. But in general, I mean, read up on all the different user groups. Everyone is important. So I would say it's better to have some knowledge on all the different types, regardless of whether or not they are connected to specific legislation in web accessibility or otherwise. Because what you really need the certification for is when you go out in life and you meet people and different user needs. I mean, that's really where it's useful to have the certification. So without knowing the exam questions, I would say, of course, try to get as broad picture as possible on all different user groups when you read through the body of knowledge.
Yeah, and I think what is really an improvement in this version is that it's more balanced. So before it was a little bit, it was more information about some groups and less on others, and this is at least a little bit more holistic, the whole view on this in this version. So that's good. So here we have a long question. I heard, I think, the translation and language strategy. I had the translation and language strategy department of a World Human Rights Organization. I am currently working on the review of our language strategy, and through internal audit, I have identified a gap in terms of accessibility of our multilingual materials and events. So I'm looking into creating a minimum framework to move the organization to be more inclusive. Would this course give me the right tools? Okay, I'm not sure about that question, but Malin, I don't know if you could say something generally, maybe both from your perspective and the Princeton course perspective.
Yeah, and the CPACC stands for core competency within accessibility. So it gives broad basic knowledge about what accessibility is. And as Sarah said before, you get a good knowledge about what the different types of disabilities there are and what their needs are and what assistive tools they use. And all this would probably help when creating a framework on what the needs of your users are, I would think. But also you get a good knowledge on the laws and the rights, the UN rights for you. So it might.
Yeah, okay, very diplomatic answer, so thank you. And then the next question is, what has the CPACC certification meant to your career? So I guess that is for everyone. Peter, did it do something to your career? Did you get a higher salary after having the CPACC? Or did you get a new job? Or a new title or something?
What it did for me is it expanded the scope of my work. Originally it was more concentrating on legislation, and it gave me a very good basis to be able to start working with research, for example, and user needs. So I don't know if my salary went up, but I had a richer work experience, and I could learn even more on the job based on the door it opened.
So not only more job, but
not only more.
Yeah, because that doesn't sound really positive to have more.
Richer.
Yeah, richer. Okay, richer is good. And Sarah, do you think the CPACC certification has meant something for your career, something positive or negative?
Negative, I hope not. It remains to be seen. No, but it's always difficult to see in the professional development what elements have actually made more of an impact. But I would say that since I've been working as a freelancer lately, there are definitely some very interesting assignments that I have received that I wouldn't have been able to take on if I hadn't had the certification. And then also one of the more interesting things that I did, not professionally, or I really don't know how to categorize it, but as a volunteer for IAAP, is to do the revision of the body of knowledge, because there were some things there that triggered me. And then I went more into the research to really learn about the topic, and I learned more on a personal level. And it was also very fulfilling to be able to not only learn something, but also to pass it forward through the body of knowledge. So that certainly wouldn't have been done if I didn't really already have the certification.
No, exactly, because if you need to have the certification to provide input to the updates, so that's that's kind of the path forward. And what about you, Malin? Does the certification help as an accessibility expert?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't have been able to do all the fun things I've done if I hadn't had my certification. We got extremely fun tenders at the consultancy committee I was on then, and got asked to do really exciting projects where we try to figure out solutions for different disability groups. I wouldn't be where I am today if I truly don't believe I would be here today if I hadn't done the CPACC exam, and I would do it over.
Yeah, we actually have one of the members in our advisory council in the Nordic chapter who says that he doesn't collect the cakes. He wants to sit for the exam again, and that's kind of a way for him to stay updated. That's kind of you are in love with the body of knowledge, and he's, I don't know, in love with making exams. I don't know. It's really interesting how people see these things. Some people go, oh, I would really like to study, but I don't like the exam thing because I don't need to be tested. But he just likes the exam part of it. So it's as everything else has to do with diversity, I guess. So that's very good. So thank you to dear panelists for this. We'll just wrap up with a little bit of marketing, I guess, for everyone who may not be a member. We didn't check with registration if people are members or not, but just a reminder to at least consider becoming an IAAP member. The photo here is from one of the workshops we had in Brussels last year, where we worked together with the monitoring agencies, monitoring bodies in the member states, and a group of experts and end user representatives and public sector bodies and so on, working together to kind of solve accessibility problems, which was very, very rewarding and interesting. And we will have another one in Paris, because we are now looking forward to the Paris event. IAAP EU is kind of touring Europe with our accessibility events, and the next big one is in Paris on the 10th and 11th of April. So free of charge for members, and you can participate online or on site. It's a 2-day event, but we start with a member-only workshop, and that is on site only. Where we are trying to solve starting to solve the issue with all the requirements in the EN 301549 that go beyond WCAG, and that many people have problems with understanding and interpreting. So we're trying to solve that. And we are kicking off that work in this workshop. But the rest of the day, the afternoon, and the next day is an hybrid event with accessibility discussions, panels, sessions, and lightning talks, and very, very interesting programs. So please join us there. If you do not know it already, the IAAP membership has several different levels, of course, depending on how many seats the organization would like to have. It's not the number of staff you have, but the number of seats, which means that the number of staff who are actually can benefit from the member benefits. You can also become an individual member if you prefer. And really what you get, there's a long list of things you will get, but I think the main things are that we provide a lot of events and webinars that are for free for members, and usually has a cost for non-members. There is also the free training course that we have talked about with Princeton training and other resources free of charge that goes with the membership. There is a discount on certification, so that can also save money if you have maybe many of your colleagues who also want to become certified. And then in the membership is also included an access to our internal forum called Connections, which I think is a fantastic tool where you can really chit chat with people, good professionals from all over the world, and share knowledge and get inspiration from things happening in other communities and so on. It's a very friendly and nice community also where you can share knowledge and learn from others. And of course, being an IAAP member makes it possible for you to influence not only the organization, but also the profession as a whole, and the professional certification that we are striving for, really moving from a grassroots movement into a real profession where the professional certification is an important tool. So that's all we had for today. Again, I'm sorry about the mishmash of the interpretation, but I would like to really thank Lukasz and Pavlina, who have both been working, I'm sure, intensely today, not only fighting the technical mismatch, but also translating everything relentlessly throughout this hour. And to our volunteers, Peter and Sarah, and also Malin from the Funka Foundation for being with me today. Thanks for listening. If you would like to know more about the organization or the certification, visit accessibilityassociation.org. Unfortunately, a long URL, but that's what it is. And if you are based in Europe, you will also get included in your membership. You will also get everything that we provide at the EU level, so within the IAAP EU program. And if you are in the UK, in the Nordic countries, or in the German-speaking parts, you will also get, as an extra bonus, all the member benefits of the local chapters. Thank you very much for today, and I hope to see you soon again.